Thank you very much. Good morning and welcome to PABA. We are starting our much anticipated candidates forum, and we're going to expedite this process to the greatest degree possible. I'd like to recognize Andrew for a brief moment.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, due to the fact that so many people here, such a great group of candidates, and I assume there'll be a lot of questions, I therefore move, pertinent to our bylaws, that we extend the meeting up to 15 minutes if questions are there.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I assume there's no further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And I'm sure we will do that. We will have the normal minutes and the other things done and completed and approved at a future meeting. Right now, we've had some discussions and some issues about those minutes becoming available, so we will deal with that in more detail at our next meeting. I would also ask that as we get into this process, when we have questions that come from the audience, as always, PABA members are first in terms of those being able to ask questions. If you are asking a question, I would also ask that you state your name and any affiliation that you may have. We have a number of recording events going on right now, including video, and if we have those names available from folks, that would greatly expedite that process. We do have 15 minutes after the conclusion of this meeting. The Governmental Affairs Committee will be meeting behind me, and Harry Bell will chair that group, so if you're on that committee, hopefully you'll be able to stick around and be able to attend that meeting as well. And I guess there are some other business items that I better briefly touch base on, since Peggy, our wonderful secretary, has made some notes for me, but I will quickly run through this. Chamber breakfast meeting at the Red Lion is tomorrow, Wednesday, 7:30 to 9 a.m. It will cover work opportunity tax credits, free online marketing, and bring your own laptop. On Wednesday, June 22nd, an EDC workshop, and I see a question mark after that, so I'm assuming that is going to take place. Next Tuesday, the 21st, we will have state representatives in for the 24th District, Position 1. Again, it will start promptly at 7:25, I'm hopeful, so we will have a number of questions and presentations on that. And Tuesday the 28th, it will be a joint meeting, PABA Chamber Red Lion meeting at the Red Lions from 7:30 to 9 in the morning. Please, if you can attend that as a PABA member, we would strongly encourage you to do so, and RSVP to Jackie r@awb.org. And as a final reminder for the folks here that there is a $3 minimum charge, so anybody that doesn't pay, that I've been told to Harry Bell will pick up their tabs. When you're retired, you get to do those things.
Timber dollars at work.
Yeah, that's it. There's our local community. And with that, I know there's a number of other items that I can talk about, touch base with, but we're going to forego that. I'm going to direct this to Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, members and guests, esteemed candidates and their entourages, good morning and welcome to another beautiful day in Port Angeles. And democracy is beautiful. There are people all over the world dying to get the right to vote and be represented. Here in this country, we've done it for over 200 years. And today we start with a very important race, because one of these folks will be elected. And they will have 33% of all the say. What's the fees? What gets spent? What policies are being made? 33% of the power. So we want to give them an opportunity to speak to us, to answer your questions, so you can make a very informed decision. With that, let me quick introduce the candidates. We have two Republicans. We have Timberman extraordinaire, Gabe Rygaard. Good morning. And running again for County Commissioner and well known in the community, Maggie Roth. Maggie, well, good morning. We also have another Timberman, independent candidate, Randy Johnson. Randy, good morning. And a former Clallam County Commissioner, Democrat Ron Richards. Ron, welcome. With that said, it's a pretty easy format. It's a 3-minute opening. 1 minute to add on, refute, expand. We then go to questions by the membership, and then back to a 1-minute close. With that, Randy has won the seating arrangement, Randy, Gabe has won the seating arrangement, and we'll start, 3 minutes.
Good morning, people. I dropped all my stuff. That's a great way to start. I just want to say I want to thank the Lord that I serve for helping me, giving me the strength to enter into this race and be the man that I am today. And I want to thank my wife, Katie, who's also my best supporter and my partner and my team of folks, and you all for coming to listen to my spiel on why you should vote for me for county commissioner. I'm running for county commissioner because I come from a little bit different age group of people that I normally see out there trying to run for public office. I have a lot of friends in this community. We gather once in a while and we all sit around the table like probably most folks. We talk about politics and we complain about the way things are. We don't like being overtaxed. A lot of my friends say that there's too much government and we need less government to be able to efficiently run our businesses. I come from an industry where if you don't get up early, work your butt off, you don't survive. And I am proud to say that I have worked in that industry my entire life, and I have been able to not only succeed, but I have been able to progress through some very economic ups and some incredible economic downs in the last 25 years. And the people in this industry would definitely agree with me that there is definitely a cyclical industry that we work in. I'm a jobs guy. I'm for jobs. We have a lot of people in this county that are out of work. We are not the highest unemployment county in the state, but we're right up there in the top 7. So with that being said, we need to put people back to work. And to do that, we need to understand the type of people that we have in Clallam County. And I believe that coming from a working man industry, starting in that industry with my bare hands, literally, I understand the people from county line to county line. And even though I'm running for district commissioner for, District 2 for Clallam County Commissioner, I believe that I can relate to Forks, Sequim, and Port Angeles as a whole because I work in all 3 areas. I'm a selfless leader, not afraid to get in the trenches and do the work. And to do that takes a lot of integrity and a lot of willpower. And I can bring that to our Clallam County government. To be a leader, the way I look at it is this. There's no limit to what a man can do or where he can go if he doesn't mind who gets the credit. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy, you're next.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. My name's Randy Johnson, for those of you who don't know me. I've lived in Clallam County for 31 years. Brief background about myself. I went to LA City High School. Instead of going to Berkeley, where my folks thought I was going to go, I went to University of South in Swanee, Tennessee, as my dad put me in a bus and I went off to that direction, simply because I've got more scholarship money than Berkeley was going to give me. After I graduated from college, I was in the military for 4 years, went through OCS, was a captain in the Air Corps. Upon leaving that, I went to Harvard Business School. After that, I joined ITT Corporation in New York City, involved in all kinds of things, ranging from timberland to timberland to farming and mineral resources. I've lived, as I said, 31 years here in Clallam County, coming with 5 of us. Is that okay? 5?
It's the machine.
Okay. With 5 of us as we began, and the company has since expanded to do business in 7 states, and 5 foreign countries. Why did I run for office? First of all, I've lived in this area, I care about this community, but everyone up here, of course, cares about this community, that's obvious. But I believe in collaborative leadership, and I believe I can bring that. What do I mean by that? So many times we've watched as things happen in this community and we go off in our disparate ways without all getting together. And I just know, and I believe this community is on the cusp of great growth when we all put ourselves together, because we are a small community and we all have to work together, and that's a very, very important thing. What else do I think is important when I look at this? Fiscal management. The county has done a very good job of having reserves compared to, say, our neighboring county. But if you take a look at the budget very closely, you'll notice that we're spending down our reserves this year. And even though there are some one-time expenses, if you continue at the current run rate, you'd be in the hole $1.4 million every year. So something's going to have to be looked at on doing that, for sure. The county infrastructure. There are a lot of things that the county can do to help foster business. A couple examples. It's Carlsberg, where we had 2,000 jobs that can expand when you're looking at being able to take that sewer district into account, or SARC. 2 other things that are important to me are, of course, Veterans Affairs, and finally, us receiving our rightful share of timber revenues, whereas every other county in the state has come pretty close. We have not. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Maggie.
I was gonna say. Good morning, I'm Maggie Roth and I'm running for Clallam County District 2, and I'm asking for your support. For the last 36 years, I have lived and raised my children and my grandchildren here in Clallam County, and I have been actively studying the issues facing the county for the past 6 years. I see 3 main issues that are addressing our citizens. 1 is the economy, 2 is community health and safety, and 3 is transparency and accountability in county government. What will I do to address these problems? First, I will support economic development, like the timber industry, composite recycling, maritime employment, and light manufacturing. On timber, we need better forest management to prevent the catastrophic fires and increase the timber harvest to support our schools, hospitals, fire districts, roads, and the government. We can better balance preservation with conservation and stewardship while respecting property rights. I also support an increase in the naval presence on the peninsula, which will bring Navy payrolls here and provide maritime support jobs. Second, when it comes to community health and safety, drug abuse and mental health issues are taking a serious toll on our citizens. I see that taxpayer money goes to proven strategies which will provide the greatest impact on these problems. Third, to improve transparency and accountability in county government, I will provide closer oversight where our tax dollars are spent and ensure money is spent wisely. Hold the line on new taxes and find more ways to increase citizen participation in county government. In conclusion, I will work to create jobs, fight the fight on the drugs, and make government more transparent and accountable, and fight for your property rights. I'm Maggie Roth, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron, good morning.
Well, good morning. I'm glad to be here, and thank you for having me here. I am Ron Richards, and I'm running for County Commissioner. I feel a little bit outnumbered by all these Republicans. Being a Democrat, I can't afford the big signs that Gabe and Maggie have, or the high-priced web developer that I hear Randy has. But I'll struggle to do my best. The one advantage I have is that District 2 votes 55% Democrat most of the time. I think another advantage I have is my experience. My campaign team is kicking around an ad that goes something like this. First person, a lawyer, a chemical engineer, a businessman, a commercial fisherman, a small-time tree farmer, and a county commissioner. How many people, what's the second person? The first person, just one, Ron Richards. Well, I have done all these things, and I'm proud of the way I've done them. I've tried to do them well, and I put everything I have into doing what I do. I also think that in my profession, I have to get up every bit as early as Gabe does to do his job. I'm a commercial fisherman now, and we have to get up quite early. 40 years ago, I was the youngest county commissioner. This time around, I hope to be the most experienced county commissioner. In the last 36 years since I was a county commissioner, I have a lot of experiences in business and in government. I've worked with boards and commissions all around this country, from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, Department of Transportation, to county commissions and city councils in Texas and all over the Midwest. I think another advantage I have is that I've been publicly involved in a lot of issues, and I think that people respect the way I approach these issues. Now, the one of us who wins this race is going to be faced with a big budget problem. We used $3 million this year to balance the budget. That just can't be kept up very long. I think my business experience and my previous experience as a county commissioner will help here. We've got a workforce problem and a substance abuse problem, and these are interrelated, and helping one will help the other. We need to take care of our environment, plan for climate change, and solve our water supply issues. We have timber issues and we have fisheries issues. We need to address both of these in ways that help all of our industries, including retirement and retirement. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy, you have a minute if you'd like to add anything.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I am an independent, please understand that. So, number two, it's interesting, everyone discussed many issues here. One that we've been through in our company, I would relate to, because it's so important also when we look at the county. 60% of the county workforce, very qualified people with a lot of experience, are 55 and older. The amount of time and effort it's going to take to replace those people, and it's something you need to start working on today and every year thereafter, because those are very important people for us to work effectively and efficiently, and it's a great skill set. So we need to certainly focus on that. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Maggie.
We were talking about the budget. Well, they're not gonna let me have the cord. It's wrapped around Randy's legs. I told you I was gonna pay you.
You did tell me.
I did. We got it.
Not around my neck now.
Oh, God. You know what?
And Maggie, I'll reset the time once you start.
I'm trying to wrap him up. I went to the courthouse yesterday and I had a long discussion with Mr. Jones about the budget. And one of the issues that he talked about with me was, when our county is depressed, taxes go down. But when our county is doing well, as to the 95 houses that are going to be built in Sequim, we're going to see tax dollars go down there. When we're depressed, tax dollars go up. The same thing with the Veterans Fund that we were discussing yesterday. And I would like to see our veterans separate their budget from the general fund so that they can have some, they can have some control over it. Veterans are, to me, are a very important, passionate issue. And I see a situation with our budget that I do not believe is as critical as people look at. If you go over the past 16 years, it has a great pattern to watch, and if you understand how it is, it's very impressive. And we need to look at that and understand how our budget really is.
Thank you, Maggie.
We got it around Randy's legs for you.
Ron, a minute.
Well, I just wanted to say something about jobs, add something about jobs. a month or so ago, I volunteered at a job fair they had up here at Burn Burden Center. I was told they were expecting a lot of young people to come there, and everybody was surprised at how many old people came there wanting to get jobs, needing to get jobs. And they were also surprised that the young people didn't show up. That bothers me. It also bothered me looking around the job fair to see that almost everything there was a service industry job. Nothing against service industries, but we really need jobs to support those service industries. There was one job that Interfor had for a welder, and that's the only one that I noticed that was in an active, the producing side of job market, and I really think that we need to improve that.
Thank you. And Gabe.
Well, I know the budget was brought up with the county government, and I know that there's been this talk about a deficit of, they called it a deficit. It's not really a deficit. It is a reduction in the surplus that we have in the county budget. Folks, we need to understand one thing about that. There's a one-time $1 million expense for SARC. That's a good, positive thing for this community. It's an investment that over the long term will benefit our community, and it will help with about 25 extra jobs. The other part of it is I'll quickly try to get through this, but there was 9 months last year to first part of this year where we had a tax cut in our sales tax. Jim Jones was right here in this meeting and admitted that a 20% cut in that time, he didn't say it, but he implied, calculated to a 14% revenue increase over that amount of time. So I challenge you on that, to realize that tax cuts increase business in this county. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank all the candidates. Now we're going to go to the best part questions, and just so you know, we're going to continue to rotate the person who answers first, so everybody has a chance to be first in line and second in line. We'll start with Maggie, and Mr. Chairman, you're going to pick the questioners.
Pick the questioners. Please give us your name, and I'm going to start with Brando.
Brando Bloor, native of Port Angeles. 30 years ago, I was on the EDC board, and we needed to work on growth management acts, and you need to plan 20 years out, put a plan together. One of the things was a bypass here in Port Angeles, 2 locations, the boulevard, which would come out around Monroe Road, and then from Lawrence and on the west side out by 112, go across Scribner Road and come out by the State Patrol. Where the candidates at on the city bypass for
That was Maggie first.
Maggie with the bypass in Port Angeles.
Fortunately, that's not a county project, that's a city project that the the road department is handling. So,
Scribner Road is in the county.
Scribner Road isn't,
Laird's Corner, the State Patrol, that's all in the county.
okay. I would be in support of something like that. After our Cascadia exercise that we have, we need to have exits to get out of this community. We have a one-way in, one-way out. And I would like to see something that would produce extra roads so that we can do that. It scares me when we have an accident on the highway and we're stuck for hours and hours. This last one where we had the gentleman who was shot by the law enforcement, tied that road up for almost 6 hours and then continued to tie it up to do their investigations. We need some kind of a form of 2 ways, to be able to exit this community in case there's an accident, in case there's a disaster. To me, I think that's a positive thing for our community.
Ron, your thought on the bypass through the largest city on the peninsula?
Yes. Well, it is a county issue in a way, and it's a state patrol, state highway department issue, and it's a city issue. I think the lead on this needs to be taken by the city, and I think they are taking it. But the county and the state highway department, of course, have got to cooperate with them. So yes, it's obvious we do need more than one way into and out of the city. I was the third car from the Monroe Highway 101 intersection when that shooting took place. And I needed to go to an important meeting downtown. I obviously did not make it. But anyway, yeah, I can't tell you exactly what the solution is, but I think the process needs to get underway, and the process is what's really important here for everybody to participate.
Gabe, your thoughts as the county for the bypass in Port Angeles?
Well, it is an interesting deal that's been going on. I noticed that has popped up in the news here recently. My thoughts is that we have to have some solid economic growth to be able to support the funding for a project of that magnitude. But I also believe that we need to genuinely pursue it and look into it. Obviously, we have concerns over that with, of course, the shooting and the highway being closed and not being able to get through town for a whole day. I made 3 trips across town that day. It took me an extra 3 hours. It was fun. Not really. But anyway, I do believe that we need to work on that. And that's something that is going to take vision and perseverance to get done and accomplished. And it's going to take an entire community development to make that work. It's going to take the city. It's going to take the county. It's going to take people working together. So that's my thoughts on it.
Randy, final thoughts on the question of the bypass?
Yeah, I won't add much to what everyone else said. It's an issue of collaboration. Arterial methods to get in and out of this area are very important. If we don't have those, we all look at what happened to us here recently. The city's certainly studying that issue right now, and I appreciate that. But again, I think it's a matter of us all working together to figure out what's best. I know people along the road, though, are very happy if you're going to make that their main road in and out, and so that also has to be looked at when we, put together hopefully a good solution. Thank you.
Yeah, Ron will be starting next, when the next question, right?
Next question, we have John.
John Fager. I'm on the board of the Port Angeles Business Association. Recently, the North Olympic Peninsula Resource Conservation and Development Council prepared a report on preparing the North Olympic Peninsula for climate change. And I would like each candidate to acknowledge whether they've seen this report or not, and whether how they would implement or not implement some of the recommendations of this report.
I've not read the report, although I've been advised of some of the things in it. And the realities are that our winters are going to get warmer. The snowpack's going to be less, and it's going to last a shorter while. Summer's going to be hotter, and we're going to have a water supply problem. We're also going to have a sea level rise issue, and we need to address this. This brings up a lot of issues, like the Dungeness water rule. It also brings up what the Navy is proposing on Edis Hook for their pier for the Fleet Transit Protection Group. When they proposed that pier, they were not aware that Edis Hook is going to be facing flooding problems within the lifetime of their project. They ignored the tsunami possibility, which this last week we heard will result in up to a 39-foot tidal wave over Edis Hook. I live in a part of the county where last summer we could not water our lawns because that part of the PUD did not have enough water. We all know that the swim irrigation channels had to be cut off for a time. This reservoir they're working on in Clallam is a step in the right direction for that. I've proposed and asked a member of the Dungeness Water Management Team to look into using water withdrawal wells as injection wells, such as the city of Walla Walla is looking into. So those are some of my ideas on the issue. We can't deny what's happening, and we need to get really hard at work on it. I might add, 40 years ago, we put solar panels on the courthouse. And I think that shows how I tend to look at things in the future. We also put in blind flanges to accept hot water from a wood pellet facility that Bob Montgomery and some of his co-investors were looking at then. That didn't materialize, but something we were doing, trying to look forward and trying to help local business.
Gabe, the report on climate control, what, if anything, is your belief in what the county should do?
I have not read into that report a great deal, but I have been. I mean, I understand that climate change is a big concern with the folks in Clallam County. I, as coming from the industry that I come from, work under immense political and environmental restrictions. And I understand that we have to look out for our environment. In fact, I consider myself more of an environmentalist than the environmentalist, because I'm out there every day working to protect the environment and do my job. And I also believe in our state law, which says in RCW 4321C that proposes to declare state policy which encourages productive and enjoyable harmony between humankind and our environment. My question for everybody here is, do we have that anymore? That's my question. Are we working in environments that encourage productive and enjoyable harmony between working and our environment? Thank you.
And Randy, thoughts on the report and the county?
Thank you. First of all, I think as we all know, if you look at the CO2 in the atmosphere, it has continually gone up. I mean, that's a fact, and we all need to recognize that. It's a fact not just about this county, it's a fact about the entire world. So we need to think about that in more global terms in many ways. I have not read that report. I certainly have read quite a few things about global, or climate change, I think is the right term. If you read Cliff Mass's recent article about that, he said certainly the temperature is changing, and if we look at the extremes, we find out at the tails, if you look at a normal distribution, those extreme events are certainly becoming more difficult for those of us living it, and I think when you look at some of the data, that's what it helps to report. But we have to also be careful when we think about climate change, about what happens. I'll give you a couple examples. One is we have been involved in windmills. Makes a lot of sense, again, as an alternative source of energy for folks back in New England. That's great. Starting price per kilowatt hour is 24 cents. There are a lot of benefits to this. But for those people that suddenly watch that price go up, particularly those less able to pay very much, a la electric rates, there's a real cost to that, and unfortunately it many times falls on the poor. And certainly when we start talking about things like carbon tax, that may make sense for many areas, and in fact there are a lot of logical reasons for that, but it also affects those of us that live in rural areas more than it affects those that live in cities. So all that said, it's a very complex subject. I've got to tell you there's no right answer, but I do know if you put certain kinds of, and I've seen a couple proposals coming forward as possible potential legislation in this state. If you suddenly put out of business those people like Nippon or Port Townsend Paper or Cosmo down in Grace Harbor, those are those family wage jobs we've talked about, and we need to protect those.
Maggie, you get to finish this question on climate change, the county report, and responsibility.
Well, I have gone to a few of the meetings that have discussed climate change, and I've looked at their presentation as to their models with no scientific evidence. I've listened to acidification in the oceans and how it's being caused by people, where we were discussing it is being caused by volcanoes, excuse me. What can we do about carbon? What can we do about climate change? We have to be good citizens to our natural resources. Trees do absorb carbon. So if we cut our younger trees are going to absorb more carbon. But the thing that's really at issue is, it's not what's happening with climate change, it's what's happening today with your own life as to, do you have a forest fire and how are you going to deal with that? Emergencies that are going on in your own environment. I think climate change is something that we need to look at and study, but it's also like our Cascadia Rising issue that we just did. We had this huge exercise with the Department of Emergency Services. Are we prepared for a disaster? Not really. But we are preparing for it, which is an important issue for each one of you. Your disaster could be, you lose your job tomorrow, how are you going to make it for the next 6 months or a year? Somebody in your family dies and you don't have that income anymore. That's kind of how I look at climate change is, you have to pick your battles and decide what's the most important issue. It is important to consider, and what we need to do is we need to start preparing for it. But I think we have issues today that needs to be dealt with at hand today and right now. And that's like our forest fires. We need to deal with that. That's a big issue as to the carbon that's going into the environment. Loggers who cut timber and stack up these huge stacks and burn the slash, that's carbon going into your environment. That's contributing to climate change. Why can't we haul that to someplace and use it for biofuel? There are other alternatives to help fight climate change instead of having the panic that we're seeing.
Gabe, I can't help but notice you rock back in the chair. Did you want to say something on that?
Yes, I would. The timber industry. The timber industry does a very good job of taking care of carbon. The slash burning that Maggie just reported, it is minimal at best, if not the community of development for building housing and residential does more burning than the forest timber industry does anymore. Herman Brothers is a great example of a company in this county that takes care of biomass. I, as a timber owner and a landowner, have harvested timber off my own land. I harvest that timber, we stack the brush and the slash, we move it forward. Herman's comes in, usually, even sometimes, on a positive note, you might get 5 cents a ton for it, but they'll come in and grind that for biofuel, which will go to Port Townsend paper and on, and they'll use that resource. So I just wanted to clarify that we're not out there, burning all that slash and emitting carbon into the air. Also, I mean, and I don't know how much time Andy's going to give me, but I'll go until he stands up.
Well, then I'm saying that this is just a comment on that.
Okay.
Because now I want to give any of the other candidates, since you had a chance to weigh in.
Yes, thank you.
Another timber man?
Yeah, well, certainly related to that. First of all, as Gabe said, and it's absolutely correct, we take our slash piles and we bring them in as biomass as long as they're within certain distance. Everyone should understand that if you have a pile of slash out in the woods, it turns into CO2 eventually anyway as it rots and will go out in the atmosphere. What Maggie said is absolutely correct about forest fires. Largest source of CO2 in the state of Washington last year was what? Cars. What was number 2? Lo and behold, it was forest fires. So we need to recognize that you have to manage your forest to help take care of that issue.
Ron, anything to add?
I don't think I want to get in this spot.
But the rest of us do. And Maggie, you want to say anything at the end?
I did say that slash was being taken and used for biomass. I know Herman Brothers hauls it out of the area. I know that Allen Loveland used to haul it out of the area. All I'm saying is there are a few, you do see slash being burned. It has been a big contributor to carbon in our air. And I'm just saying those are issues that are contributing, and we need to really look at those seriously and continue to use that fuel. That's economy. You're wasting dollars if you burn it up. And I'm glad to see that a lot of it is going to biomass, but there is some that you still see being slashed.
And Ron looks like he can't resist.
Well, you know, we have a forest fire problem because we have a climate change problem. And I don't think the loggers caused the climate change problem as much as the industry that I used to be involved in did. And that's the fossil fuel industry. And what we really need to do is wean ourselves from fossil fuels.
Next question, Mr. Chair.
It's going to go around Randy's legs again.
We need a better system for this. Next question. Grant, are you a member of PABA? You are, that's right. I saw your name on the disc. Okay.
A proud, long-time member.
Too.
Full member.
Good. Question for, on the timber side, one of the greatest assets this county has is 80 or 90,000 acres of timber that's contributing not much to the county coffers. What would our county commissioner candidates recommend we do with that?
Gabe, what would you do with that?
And Grant's right. We have about 92,000 acres of county-owned trust timberlands that's managed by the state of Washington. And it is true that that land is in about a 92 million board foot arrearage over the last 10 years. We as a county, as a group, as a commissioner in this county, have a great deal of responsibility to all of our subtaxing districts. And those lands need to be managed sustainably and efficiently. What I would like to see happen is I would like to see the next 10-year cycle of harvest in Clallam County reach those goals so that we had that money for our sub-taxing districts, our schools, hospitals.
How do you think that should happen?
Well, right now there is a timber advisory committee working on that right now and looking into reconveyance of our state lands. I have been watching it. I've been to the meetings. I've been watching it on the meetings I can't make. I watch it on video. Thanks to this wonderful project here. And I'm neither for nor against the reconveyance right now. I am for the jobs that it will produce when we reach those sustainable harvests, and I am for sustainably harvesting our timber and managing our 92,000 acres of county trust lands.
Randy, county trust lands, what should we do? And hit the question of arrearage too, please.
Yeah, okay, thank you. First of all, there is a county trust advisory committee looking at many of those issues. But let me just talk about the first fact. The fact is that if we look at our county, we are short about $9 million. That includes school districts, the county, and all kinds of other people. The state went through what they projected should be the continuous volume coming from these forest lands. And unfortunately, our county seemed to be singled out, and we therefore were shorted as compared to every other county in the state by a tremendous amount, and that amounted to $9 million. So the question we need to ask is, how do we go about getting that back? And certainly everyone's looking at that right now. There are a couple ways, but obviously that's something between the county government and other governments also meeting with the DNR. So that's number one. Number two, of equal import as we go forward is we need to know that we have a sustainable volume that doesn't go at one time at 100 million feet and the next year at 20 million feet, because if you have mills in the area that are dependent on that, lo and behold, some of them will disappear. So we need to figure out what that sustainable volume is forever, right, within certain parameters, and then mills can in fact come and plan on having volumes available in the area.
And again, if you were elected commissioner, what would you do to have that be accomplished?
Well, first of all, it's not just us. This is back to my collaborative issues. This is something that we, the county, need to have as a discussion with the Department of Natural Resources, because the Department of Natural Resources is the one that, of course, sets those limits and those harvest limits. So that's what we need to do. Thank you.
Maggie, county timberlands, arrearage, and what would you do?
I'm gonna get it again. I'm gonna get Randy again. I'm gonna have to hog time.
You have it?
Yes, I don't wanna put it around his neck. Nice friends in the group. Last week I was at the DNR meeting when Sue and her partner told the county commissioners that they have, as today, cut the timber that we are supposed to cut for this year. We are at $2.9 million worth of timber that has been cut. I believe that our Trust Land Advisory Committee has been pushing or kind of holding DNR's feet to the fire to make them cut that timber. If we continue to listen to what the advisory board has to say, which is not done, they're not going to be done for at least 2017 is when they feel they're going to have a conclusion. I think that if DNR is managed well, they will continue to cut our timberlands for what the trust lands were originally intended for. Schools, junior fire districts, junior fire taxing districts. But we do have timber owed to us, and I don't want to see our county balanced off the counties that have cut overage and we are under. I really believe that that timber is owed to this community, and we need to somehow get that done so that we can have the revenue in this community. But like I said, right now, DNR is on top of cutting their timber. This year they've met their quota.
Ron.
Well, the Trust Lands Advisory Committee started off sort of inappropriately as a part of the Charter Review Commission. It has, I think, focused some attention on an issue that is important. But I think the first reason offered for the committee, the arrearage, it turns out to be something that really wasn't there. As I understand it, Endangered Species Act restrictions, stream side setbacks, and staffing problems simply did not allow the timber they thought could be cut to be cut. Also, I think a big part of it was an overestimation of how much timber was available. And I think the committee has come to the realization, at least that's what I hear, that transfer back to the county probably isn't in the works. I'm told that the state law, as it's written now, prohibits it, and that there's better things to look at. One thing that I thought when I first heard of this committee being formed was the possibility of looking at the fees that the state charges the county. And perhaps there's something there that could be made better for us and make it easier for us to balance our budget.
Yes, Maggie, go ahead.
I was on charter review this last time, and there were several people who came to the charter, and their concern was, what's the charter going to do about the trust lands? Carol Johnson came and she talked, Ed Bowen talked, Rob Fleck from Forks, the city manager, talked, and he's done a wonderful PowerPoint on our timber rearage. When they came and talked to us, the question was, what can you do in the charter to move this forward? And at that time, we told them it was an issue that we really felt that the county commissioners needed to address. And by doing that, we asked them if they would form this advisory committee so that they could look at what our trust lands were in the rearage and could we do something about it. So I think that your charter did a wonderful job by passing it on to the commissioners, because look what has happened. It is being addressed. Something is happening, and the people might not see results today, but I really think that we're going to see results as to this advisory group and their recommendations, I think, are going to be positive for this community.
Any other candidates? Randy, you want to talk? And then Gabe on, and let's kind of narrow into, should the county be seriously looking or taking over their lands?
Okay, I'll come back to that in a second. I really can't address whether the county should take over the lands or not. I'll say that right up front. I don't know.
Any gut reaction?
My gut reaction is probably not, but that's just my gut reaction. If you base it on facts, heaven forbid that we'd do that, but let's base it on facts and what the costs are and what the returns are, and the fact that you'd have to add a whole new staff to do it, being quite honest, so there are a lot of, or what other alternatives anyway. Back to the whole review, I appreciate the fact, and I don't really know what the answer is going to be, but that committee is made up of environmentalists from the Washington Environmental Council and many others, as well as certainly some people that understand timber and timberlands and harvest levels, as well as the DNR. And what they come up with as to the reasoning, as to the shortfalls, I would very much like to hear, because once we hear that, I think all of us in this room can form a heck of a lot better conclusion than what we have kind of thinking out loud, but not really knowing all the facts. So again, I'm appreciative, I think as everyone should be, of the fact that this county actually has this committee looking at this issue, because it is an important issue, because it amounts to dollars out of all of our pockets relative to the county. But as to what all those facts are, I can't tell you until they get through. Thank you.
Gabe, this concerns your advocation, so more thoughts?
Yeah. The bottom line is we have 92,000 acres of county-owned timberland. We know what the sustainable harvest is off those lands. We've heard from the advisory committee on what the state's reasons are why they haven't managed those lands according to their sustainable harvest. But the real bottom line is it's cost this county a lot of jobs. You all know the mills that have closed, and you all know that there's people out there in this county who would like to tell you that the timber industry is dying. And I've stood up in one of those advisory committee meetings and said, it is hard to survive an industry with a noose wrapped around your neck. And that's part of that harmonious balance that we have to have. It's got to be about the people and the resource and using that resource for what it was set out by law to be used for. Our prior county commissioners, and we have had some good county commissioners in the past, unfortunately, they have failed in one area, and we are talking about it right now. And that area is managing our county lands. Our commissioners, the state doesn't own those lands. See, we got the state up here. The county's down here. The county's the boss. They own the land. Okay? That's still county-owned land. The state is the agency managing the land. So let me ask you this. Why hasn't our county commissioners overlooked this and watched out and looked for what is happening with our county trust lands? Why have they turned a deaf ear to it? I won't. Okay? You elect me to be your county commissioner. I will not do that. I will help manage those lands, make sure that they're being sustainably managed, environmentally taken care of, and that they are there for generation after generation after generation, because that is what they were set up for.
So then as I ask Randy, so your belief is the county should take control of those lands?
My belief is that if the county takes those lands, they are responsible for managing them. If the state is managing those lands, it is up to our commissioners to make sure that the state is managing those lands effectively.
And then before I get to Ron to finish, since he got us into this one, Maggie, I haven't asked you, do you have a feeling, a gut reaction on what the county should do with those lands?
I want to wait until the Trust Land Advisory Board comes back with their report as to what they're going to say. There's a great deal of power on that board as to what's going to happen. It's not just an environmentalist, it's not just an attorney. There's a great deal of people there. DNR is also there. I think if we, as the county, force DNR to do what those lands were intended for, I think that they can be managed by, the county doesn't have the resources to take over that at this point in time. But I would like to see what the final results are before I make a decision to say, yes, let's take back these lands.
And Ron, anything to add, plus the question to you? Do you have a belief or a gut instinct on what the county should do with these lands?
Well, I think I said that. Reading the tea leaves, I think that the Trust Lands Advisory Committee will agree that they should not be transferred back to the county.
Okay, next question. And it's going to be Randy will be answering first.
I saw Edna's hand come up first, I believe.
Edna Peterson on the board of Port Angeles Business Association. This is my magic wand question, and you are 4 very individual people running for one office. The one thing, if you had a magic wand, that you would do to change the climate in the county to make jobs go forward. How'd I do with my question?
So Randy, magic wand, don't waste it.
Okay, my magic wand.
Yeah.
The one thing, if I could magically make our entire community work together on a project, and I'll give you an example in a second. What I said was collaboration is so important. A simple example recently was when Voss came here to look at potentially locating and moving, their offices here. Very important kind of thing, potentially a whole lot of jobs, well-paying jobs, everything else. Who showed up for that? Well, that kind of project takes the county and being involved in cooperation with the port, in cooperation with the Economic Development Council, cooperation with the tribes, and cooperation with Peninsula College if training's involved, and everything else. So if I could wave my magic wand, I would love to see this community coalesce and become one, because that's how a smaller community like this survives and is, I think, going to survive and do well.
Good. Okay. Maggie, the what magic wand? What do you do to get economics rolling in this county? You can do anything.
I can do anything, I'm leaving. I did a tour at the port, and I was extremely impressed with what the port did. This is their strategic plan that they have for the next 5 years. And in this talks about connecting with the community, creating jobs, stewardship, integrity, accountability, excellence, transparency, all the things that we're asking from our county commissioners. This is a great model, and as Randy commented on economic development, it's a very important thing. If we do not create jobs or help create jobs in this community, we're going to die. This is probably one of the most innovative programs that I have seen going on in our community, and I would like to see us either partner with the port or form some kind of a collaborative effort with our municipalities, the port, and the county. If they can come up with this, we can come up with it.
Ron gets the magic microphone. What are you going to do as commissioner? Your first day, you got the magic wand.
Well, I just figured it out. No. It's pretty presumptive for one commissioner to say he's going to do everything. And I don't pretend to.
But I think the question is she wants to get inside your head, as if you could.
I will. But what this county needs to do is, what the county can do to have a good economy is to have a well-functioning county government that lives within its budget. We can also provide infrastructure. And in this respect, we just started this Carlsberg sewer system. We need to make sure that gets completed within budget, and we have to make sure that it operates within budget and in a manner where the general fund does not have to subsidize it to a large degree. We also have to solve some of the problems in Port Angeles, and this is really a city council problem. I
probably doorbelled 40% of the city by now. The number one complaint I hear, and I hear it about at every door, is the price of utilities, cost of water, cost of sewer. It is so high in the city of Port Angeles that it is adversely affecting our economy. Now, it was a long time coming, all the things that led to that, but it's an example of why government has to function efficiently and reasonably in order to promote development. And I said earlier, we have the substance abuse problem and the workforce problem. I've heard the director of the EDC say that it's futile to go out and try to get companies to come here, because when they do come here, we have a workforce that can't sustain them. Now, I think that we need to work on that, and that is something that the county can do. The substance abuse problem and the workforce problem, as I said earlier, goes hand in hand. And again, that's something that the county can do. I'm pleased that the Economic the Opportunity Fund has been able to fund a couple projects, and I look forward to that fund being able to fund other projects that will get this community rolling. Thank you.
Gabe, you get the magic wand, let's hope it's crafted out of local timber.
Well, if I had a magic wand to wave, I'd probably be sitting on the beach somewhere, but I don't, so I'm here. But in all reality, I mean, if I had a magic wand to wave, from the bit of information that I've got from talking to people, and I've held some town halls, and I've met with some people and talked to them, and from being able to work on one side of this county to the other side on a regular basis, if I could wave a magic wand and make it, I would reconnect people with the community. Because we all know this is a small group, and there's lots of small groups in this county, but they don't all work together. And if I could wave a magic wand, I would reconnect people with their community. Because once we have people connected and feel a part of a community, we can get more done. And as long as we have leaders in that community that don't care about getting, being more important for themselves, or, looking at how I can be better for everybody else and having a higher statue, we can work together to accomplish a lot in Clallam County. The other thing that I would like to do, if I had a magic wand, is I'd like to have those, 300 plus jobs back in the timber industry that we've lost in the last 4 or 5 years. Folks, the people are they're still here. They're trying to relocate. Some of them have left, but the people are still here that can operate those mills and do those jobs. Contrary to what some people might think, they're here and they want to work. That's why we have to be connected with the workforce in Clallam County. Yes, it is aging. I know that for a fact in my business. But if we utilize the resource that we have in Clallam County, and we look into the problems that we have, people are concerned with carbon. There's been a lot of talk about cross-laminated timber. It's a huge, huge benefit to this community. From being in business, I've learned that the companies that are on the forefront, that have vision and dreams and goals, and willing to take those risks, calculated risks, they're the ones that make large amounts of money and bring lots of wealth to the community. Cross-laminated timber, folks, is a great way for this. It is an opportunity for Clallam County. So if I could wave a magic wand, I would bring cross-laminated timber to Clallam County. We have the resource to grow the trees. We have the people here to manufacture the product. And if I'm elected to be your commissioner, I will work with the building codes so that we can start building with cross-laminated timber. And if we're on the front of it, folks, King County's going to figure this out. Okay? And when they do, they're gonna need that product. It's gonna come here. It's gonna happen. I mean, just the interesting fact about it. If you build a building out of concrete and steel, it emits into the atmosphere about 1,200 tons of carbon. Okay, that's about a 20-story building. Just for factual, you know, if you built that same building out of cross-laminated timber, you hold or store or sequester 3,500 tons of carbon. So if you take that building and you build it, and you don't build it out of steel and concrete, and you build it out of cross-laminated timber, you save or store a net of 4,500 tons, and that's TONNES, which is a little bit more than a ton than a U.S. ton of carbon. That's enough storage of carbon to run 900 cars for a year. One building. Okay? So just think about that. If I had that old magic wand and I could wave it, I could put people back to work, I could utilize the resource we own and have in Clallam County, and we'd be on the forefront of it, on the front side of it, not the back side of it trying to catch up, but on the front side of it being the leader. So.
Maggie will be taking the next question first, and it will most likely be our last question, so it should be a great one.
We will obviously leave time at the end
Yeah,
of this.
that's what I'm doing, so one more
So I
question.
had Laurel over here for next one.
Hi, I'm Laurel Black. I live in Clallam County, and I have a question that's for all four of you, and it may overlap a little bit with the previous one, but slightly more general. I would like each of you to expound on what you think the number one issue is for our county from your perspective.
Number one issue from your perspective. That could be positive, negative, whatever. What's the number one
Whatever
issue?
they want.
Well, the number one issue, I think, in our county is the economy. And the economy is run by jobs. And listening to the issue on cross-laminate panels, cross-laminate beams, it's being done in Penticton in Canada, it's being done in Montana, and it's being done in Oregon. Kilmer has looked at it, Behringer has looked at it. It is a positive thing, and as it was said, yes, we do have a problem with the issue as to permitting and being able to change the ordinance as to whether or not we can do it. There is a pilot program on building a structure in Clallam County right now. It is a structure for Grey Wolf School. We haven't got the codes or the permits passed yet, but if it does, and it's a pilot program and it works, that would be an engine for us in this community. That's not going to be the only thing that's going to support us in this community. We need light manufacturing in this community. Anything big, it's hard to get it off of the peninsula. Listening to the Composite Recycling Center, when they talked about the products that they were going to build out there, they can move them off of this peninsula through FedEx. Those are the kind of things that we need to look at here, because timber is going to be limited, because we've lost 4 mills. We lost one up in the industrial park up there, the Eclipse Industrial Park. We lost 3 out in Forks. And their equipment was sold off in a foreclosure sale.
And then Maggie, quickly, and I have to emphasize quickly because of time, if that's your number one issue, jobs, what would you do as the number one thing as a commissioner to get jobs here?
I would definitely talk to Kilmer, Behringer, whichever position Kevin happens to choose, and if Mr. Chapman does, I'd ask them legislation to help us.
And then I'm going to push it along. Ron, what is the number one issue in the county?
Well, I'm not going to say what the number one issue is because there's a whole lot of issues, and it's really...
Give us the top 3 then.
Okay, climate change is probably number one. It's the number one issue everywhere because it is the number one impact on our economy, and how we address it is how we're going to determine our future.
And the number one thing you're going to do individually for that?
Well, I am going to look at the reports that are offered. I'm going to follow what I've done in the past and try to put in things like solar panels on the courthouse and and other things like that. That's not the only way to do it. I think that the county can do it through their transportation policies. I think also, I keep going back to workforce. That's really important. If you've listened to this discussion today, you might think that the only industry in this county is timber, but we have other industries, such as tourism, which is probably our biggest #1 overall industry. We need to protect the park. We need to keep the tourists coming here. And again, that gets back to climate. So there's a whole host of things that all are working together, and everything I've talked about today all interrelates. And so I can't offer you the one magic bullet.
Okay, Gabe, what is your #1 thing? And what are you gonna do about it?
Well, obviously, I've been talking a lot about jobs. Jobs are important to Clallam County. We've lost a lot of them. And how are we going to bring them all back? How are we going to put these people to work? Those are tough, tough questions to ask. We have to reconnect people with our community, #1, to be able to do that. We have to have county leaders that are business-minded, that will look at the codes and laws that are set forth before us and interpret them in a way that will help business. Folks, if we help business, and it's got to start with the business we already have. Okay, there's a lot of business people in this room. We got to start with your businesses first. Okay, we got to make sure that you're taken care of and you're not overtaxed and that you're, able to thrive and work in this county. And then we have to help your businesses be able to grow, add jobs, to develop our community. And then we have to have the resources and the vision to bring in more jobs. Whether that's, some of that is going to be through manufacturing. Some of that is going to be through things like this composite recycling center that the port's talking about. But we also have to have other things in place to do that. We have to have a functional airport. We have to have a great operating port. We have to have people in leadership in all those areas that are willing to come together and mutually agree on how we're going to do that. That's where I can come in, because I've built all my businesses. I was born and raised here, okay? I am from Clallam County. I am a hometown guy with hometown solutions. I'm not coming from anywhere else. I'm coming from right here in my community. I love this community. I genuinely care about this community. I want my children to raise their children in this community. Okay? You've got to start with some vision, and you've got to start caring about each other, and we've got to work together, or we're not going to solve these issues. Okay? So it's going to take a lot, and it's going to take somebody with enough fortitude and enough willingness to put themselves aside to be a true leader and lead people. Not manage them, lead them.
Very good, thank you. And Randy, you get to finish up #1 issue, and of course, how are you individually going to bring that about or facilitate?
Yes, thank you. Our workforce and jobs are the #1 issue to me. Obviously, as a county commissioner, you're only one person out of 3, but they have been working certainly with the Economic Development Council, which I'm very familiar with. Big part of that is business retention and expansion. When one takes a look at jobs that have been added here in the recent past, so many of those have been adding 2 jobs here, 3 jobs there. Simple examples when I throw my tenure are, we need to expand our explosive making ability here in the county to do something to fuse metals together, so you can probably guess what company that would be. And how do we do that? Oh, we need 20 acres over here so we don't bother all the people around when we do that. So you need to work together to figure out how to do that. Or I have a dairy that is here. Wow, do I market the small dairy and a specialty product so I stay in business as I go forward, and there are 12 jobs here. Well, that's important. Maybe I can add another one or two as I expand that and I market that product from Bellingham all the way down to Vancouver. Or I've got a company that has 6 people working here, and I could move it off out of the area because I sell all over the place, but how do I stay here? And that, one more time, consists of working with the Economic Development Council, with SBDC, and a lot of other people to keep those jobs here and possibly expand them. Now, that's part of it. The other part was mentioned by several people, and Gabe mentioned it, things like an airport here. Certainly important to all of us who travel outside the area. Also important if you're going to put in this area a brand new hotel, a real nice one, which certainly would be possible if we get an airline here. And my gosh, if we had an airline here and you could clear security here, we'd have people coming from Bainbridge Island and showing up, because that would be such a benefit to this area. One more thing. So again, it all relates to jobs, it all relates to working together and a consortium to make sure those things happen.
Well, very good. That concludes the question part, and before we get to the closing, I'd like to say not only do I think that we have 4 great candidates here qualified, but I give great admiration to anybody who not only wants to do public service, but stands up in front of folks like us and takes the Grand Inquisition. So let's give all our candidates a service is admirable. And with that, Ron, you will start with 1 minute to close.
Well, I want to give you a little example of what type of a person I am. I've done a lot of things in my life, and one of the things that I'm most proud of is starting Western Gas Resources. As a young engineer with Shell Oil Company, there was a lot of gas being vented around Denver where we were. We decided to form a company to gather that gas rather than waste it. We started small, got big. What really put us on the map was a contract to build a gas plant in the middle of the winter. The company that was going to take that gas didn't think we could do it, so they didn't put in the pipeline to take the finished product from the plant. We got that plant up and running 2 weeks before schedule. We poured concrete in minus 10-degree weather, and as a result of us getting that plant up, that company had to buy that gas, even though they had to pay for the gas, even though they didn't gather it. I've approached everything I've done in a can-do attitude like we did then, and I'll do this job in the same way.
Thank you, Ron. Gabe, 1 minute to close.
We need leadership in Clallam County that has vision and compassion and integrity. I can bring that to Clallam County. I've shown it through my entire life. And I'm going to close with a quote that Abraham Lincoln said, which is, "Character is like a tree, and reputation is like its shadow. The shadow is what we think of it, but the tree is the real thing." I'm Gabe Rygaard, and I'm asking you for your vote for Clallam County Commissioner District 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe. Randy.
Don't spill water on top of you. First, I bring more than 30 years of proven collaborative leadership from my past experience. What's important to me, obviously, fiscally sound management. I think in the case of the county budget, we actually need to go back to zero-based budgeting to take a look at all those areas, because we do have some issues, even though we have a surplus sitting there right now. Nonpartisan teamwork. I don't know of a road or a bridge or a sewer project that says a D or an R. I mean, those are projects that are certainly nonpartisan. County government, working together with all forms of other government, certainly. Ensuring our infrastructure is in place to help business prosper. Certainly Veterans Affairs. And finally, making sure we get our rightful share of state revenue from our trust lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. And finally, Maggie.
I am Maggie Roth, and as your county commissioner, I will focus on efficiently managing our natural resources, planning for our immediate and long-term infrastructure services, continue to improve emergency services, encourage economic development, job creations. Navy proposals, create maritime trade, improve national safety and our economy at the same time. Economic development, family wage jobs provide opportunities for healthy economy and environment. I am prepared to make reasonable, responsible budget decisions for Clallam County. Taxpayers' money should go to proven strategies which provide the greatest impact on these problems. Maggie Roth, and I do ask for your vote.
All right, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I turn the meeting over to you.
Oh, my thanks, Andrew, to you. My thanks to those who attended this meeting. We are very close to being on time. I would also extend my congratulations and appreciation to those who have stepped forward and volunteered to run for this position. It is a grind, it is a grueling thing, but it's also very worthwhile. With that, I have one thing.
I just wanted to let everybody to know that the Port of Port Angeles is interviewing their executive director positions on Thursday. I will be videotaping those, so you'll be able to get them.
Great. It's a wonderful thing with these videotapes. I've used it a lot and really appreciate you doing that. Our agenda next week, we have another candidates forum. Andrew, you're on stage again. We're doing the 24th district. And that'll be again, we'll try to start 7:25. My thanks again to all of you for attending. I will now say the meeting is adjourned.